Welcome to another episode of Extreme Expat Stories of Thailand. Hi, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't even know if I have the courage to hit send, but I'm sitting here on a beach in Koh Samui at 3 a.m., typing on a phone with a shattered screen that keeps cutting my fingers, and I need to tell you my story before I run out of time. My name is Tobey, and 3 years ago I owned the most successful beach restaurant on this island. Today, I'm sleeping under palm trees and eating scraps from tourist garbage bins. This is my story. Every word of it is true. And even if one person reads this and avoids the mistakes that destroyed me, then maybe my 18 years of building something beautiful wasn't completely wasted. I'm begging you to share this. Not for me, it's too late for me, but for everyone out there who thinks they're different, who thinks the rules don't apply to them, who believes paradise can never turn into hell. Let me take you back to June of 2006. Imagine this: me, Toby Thompson, sitting on the bamboo deck of my restaurant, the Sunset Pearl, watching my custom made neon sign glow against the purple twilight of Koh Samui. God, I can still smell everything from that night like it was yesterday. Lemongrass sizzling in my kitchen, fresh coconut cracked open at the bar, that particular scent of ocean breeze mixed with expensive sunscreen that only exists on Paradise Islands. My restaurant was absolutely packed, every single table filled with sunburned Swedes, adventurous Japanese couples, American backpackers mixing with my Thai staff who'd become closer than family over 16 years. The laughter was infectious, bouncing off my bamboo walls like a symphony I'd personally orchestrated. Those walls were covered with thousands of photographs, Polaroids, prints, and snapshots, each one capturing a moment when a complete stranger became a memory, when my little slice of heaven gave someone exactly what their soul was searching for. I stood there that night, surveying everything I built, and I felt like a king. No, I felt like a god. 20 years earlier, I'd arrived on that ferry from the mainland with 1,700 pounds in a battered backpack and dreams that everyone in Liverpool called a damn death wish. My father literally told me I'd be home within 6 months, broke and humiliated. My mates at the pub took bets on how long I'd last. But look what I'd done. I'd taken this collapsing fishing shack. I'm talking three walls held together by rust and prayer, a corrugated roof that became a waterfall during every storm, a floor made from whatever driftwood had washed up that week, and I'd transformed it into something legendary. The locals called it Tobey's Place. Before I even painted the sign, travelers would tell other travelers, "You haven't really experienced Samui until you've eaten at Tobey's." It wasn't just a restaurant, it was a destination, a rite of passage, a place where lonely people found connection over plates of food that cost less than a coffee back home. That particular evening, I watched young backpackers teaching my head chef their drinking songs while an elderly French couple renewed their wedding vows at the corner table. My chest swelled with this overwhelming pride. This was my kingdom. Every single person laughing under my roof was there because I created something from absolutely nothing. The handmade lanterns I'd struck up cast this perfect warm glow over everything, and the rhythmic crash of waves just 30 meters away provided the soundtrack. I had customers who'd been coming back for 15 years straight, staff who called me brother, a reputation that stretched from Samui to Phuket to Bangkok and beyond. I didn't know it then, couldn't have known, but that night was the last time I'd ever feel untouchable. Let me take you to 2009 because that's when the foundation started cracking. Even though I thought I was making the smartest decision of my entire life, the restaurant was doing incredible business. I'm talking reserved solid for weeks in advance, turning away 50 people every night during high season. It was the best kind of problem to have until it wasn't. I developed this vision, this beautiful, intoxicating vision of expanding directly onto the beach. Picture it with me: private cabanas for sunset dinners, fire dancers performing every Friday, maybe even destination weddings that would make my restaurant internationally famous. I could see it all so clearly: silk curtains billowing in the evening breeze, couples having the romantic dinner of their lives with their toes in the sand, my name becoming synonymous with luxury island dining. The problem was money, serious money, not the kind you save up gradually, the kind that requires betting everything on a single gamble. Thai banks weren't exactly lining up to finance a foreign restaurant owner's expansion dreams, especially without the property deed they wanted as collateral. As a foreigner, I couldn't actually own the land. That's a whole other nightmare I'll get to later. That's when one of my regular customers introduced me to Mr. Sompon, described as a private investment specialist. Those words should have sent me running. But when you're drunk on visions of success, when you can practically taste the champagne of achievement, red flags just look like colorful decorations. We met in this ultra modern office in Chaweng, all marble and glass, with views of the Gulf that made my beloved restaurant look primitive. Mr. Sompon was impeccably dressed, spoke perfect English with just a hint of British accent, and had this supernatural gift for making you feel like a genius for bringing your brilliant ideas to him. Tobey, he said, sliding glossy projections across his glass desk. I can recognize a visionary. This beach expansion will quintuple your revenues within 8 months. The numbers he showed me were intoxicating. Projected profits that would have the loan paid off in 18 months and me living like Thai royalty for the rest of my life. I remember the weight of that pen in my hand. My signature felt powerful, decisive, like I was writing my name in the history books for expat success stories. The loan was for 3.2 million baht, about 65,000 UK pounds at the time, with interest rates that seemed completely reasonable when spread across the projected timeline. The first few months were euphoric. Construction started immediately, and watching those beach cabanas take shape was like watching my fantasies materialize in real time. I'd walk to the construction site every evening after closing, imagining the parties, the revenue, the expansion that would follow. Then came the first late payment notice. The construction had taken longer than projected, cost more than budgeted. Unexpected permits were required. The monsoon season delayed everything by 5 months. Suddenly, those reasonable monthly payments felt like mountains I had to climb every 30 days with my bare hands bleeding. I told myself it was temporary, that once the beach section opened, everything would be fine. Money would pour in. I'd be laughing about the stress in a year. I had no idea I'd just signed the first page of my own destruction. If the loan was the first crack in my foundation, then Prawit was the earthquake that brought the whole structure crashing down. I met him in 2011, 3 years into struggling with loan payments, already feeling like I was drowning, but still clinging to optimism, still believing I could save everything. Prawit seemed like a gift from the universe. He was Thai American, which meant he could navigate the bureaucratic nightmare that constantly strangled foreign business owners while still understanding Western business principles. He spoke flawless English, had connections throughout the island's power structure, and claimed to be an expert in the permit system that had been bleeding me dry for years. Tobey, brother, he'd say with a warm smile I now know he practiced in mirrors. You focus on what you do best, creating magic for customers. Let me handle all the boring paperwork and government relationships. It sounded like exactly what I needed. We shook hands on a deal, 35% of profits in exchange for handling all permits, licenses, and local government relations. No contracts, no lawyers, just a handshake between two men who I thought shared the same vision. For the first 18 months, everything seemed perfect. Permits that used to take 6 months were approved in 3 weeks. Health inspectors who used to find violations in everything suddenly had nothing but praise. Government officials who used to make my life hell were suddenly friendly. I thought I'd found the missing piece of my puzzle. But then I started noticing things. Small things at first. Cash register totals that didn't match my mental calculations. Receipts that seemed to disappear. Money that didn't quite add up. Prawit always had explanations. Exchange rate fluctuations, unexpected permit fees, gifts for officials to keep running things smoothly. That's just how business works here, Tobey. The truth hit me like a Thai tsunami in late 2012. I'd stayed late one night to go through the books, something I'd been putting off for months because I trusted Prawit to handle everything. What I found in those ledgers made my blood turn to ice. Entries had been altered. Profits had been systematically siphoned off. Money that should have been going toward loan payments had been disappearing into accounts I'd never seen. The numbers were staggering. Over 950,000 baht had vanished over 20 months. Nearly a million baht gone. I confronted him the next night outside the restaurant, under the palm trees where we'd first shaken hands. The conversation started calm, professional, but when I showed him the evidence I'd compiled, his mask slipped completely. You stupid farang, he snarled, using that Thai word for foreigner like a weapon. You think you can come to my country and get rich without paying the real price? You think your smile and your British accent make you special? This is how business actually works here. What followed was the ugliest confrontation of my life. Shouting that drew neighbors from their homes. Me demanding he return every baht immediately. Him laughing at my face, telling me to prove it in court, knowing damn well that a foreigner I'd be fighting an uphill battle in the legal system. Go ahead, he said. His smile turned cruel. Sue me. See how that works out for you. I know people. You're just another farang who's about to learn a very expensive lesson. By sunrise the next morning, Prawit had vanished. His phone was disconnected. His apartment was empty. And roughly half of my remaining cash reserves had disappeared with him into the Thai night. I was left holding loan payments I could barely afford, with a business partner who'd stolen my future and evaporated like morning mist. The final nail in my coffin came from the most unexpected source, the very government system that Prawit was supposed to be protecting me from. By 2013, between the crushing loan payments and Prawit's theft, I was operating on fumes. Every baht that came in went straight back out to cover basic expenses. Food costs, staff wages, utilities, loan payments. There was nothing left. Nothing. That's when I made the catastrophic mistake that would ultimately destroy everything. I let my visa expire. It wasn't intentional. It was desperation. The visa renewal fees, combined with the required proof of funds that I no longer had in my accounts, created an impossible situation. I kept telling myself I'd sort it out next month, when business picks up, when high season brought more tourists, when I had just a little breathing room. But next month never came, and the fines started piling up like monsoon rainfall. In Thailand, overstaying your visa isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's a serious criminal offense that compounds daily. What started as a manageable fine quickly became an insurmountable debt growing like a tumor. I remember the first time I walked into the immigration office in Naton, trying to explain my situation to an officer who looked at me like I was just another irresponsible foreigner who thought rules were suggestions. The fine had already reached 62,000 baht, and it was growing by 500 baht every single day I delayed. You pay now, or you go to detention center, the officer said matter-of-factly, like he was telling me the weather forecast. The detention center, a place where overstayers were held in cells until they could pay their fines or be deported back to wherever they came from. I tried everything. I appealed to British embassy officials who looked at me like I was a lost cause, another expat who'd bitten off more than he could chew and was now begging for a bailout. I reached out to old friends for loans, but word had spread about my financial troubles, and suddenly everyone was too busy to take my calls or respond to my messages. The bureaucratic nightmare consumed what little energy I had left. Every day spent dealing with visa issues was a day I couldn't focus on saving my business. It was a vicious, inescapable cycle. I needed money to fix my visa status, but I needed legal status to properly run my business and make money. By 2016, the fines had reached nearly 235,000 baht. I was essentially trapped on this island, unable to leave without paying a debt I couldn't afford, unable to work legally, unable to do anything but watch my life's work crumble around me in slow motion. The stress was killing me, literally. I started having chest pains, panic attacks. I'd wake up at 3 a.m., drenched in sweat, my heart racing, unable to breathe, convinced I was having a heart attack. But I couldn't afford to see a doctor, couldn't afford medication, couldn't afford anything except the cheapest rice and whatever vegetables I could negotiate down at the market. I need you to understand something about hope. It's both the most beautiful and the most dangerous thing a human being can possess. Even as my world disintegrated around me, I kept believing that somehow, some way, I'd find a solution. I'd turn it around. I'd survive. That's what made the morning of February 8th of 2023 so absolutely devastating. I woke up to aggressive banging on the restaurant door at dawn, not the gentle knock of an early customer or the familiar tap of my cleaning staff. This was an official, final, violent noise. Through the cracked window, I could see a man in a white shirt holding a clipboard, flanked by 2 local police officers. My hands were shaking as I unlocked the door. I knew what was coming, but knowing and experiencing are completely different universes. The property owner's representative, a thin man with cold eyes who spoke English with mechanical precision, slapped an eviction notice on my door. The red ink screamed "Final Notice" in letters that burned into my brain like a brand. 14 days to vacate. 18 years of my life reduced to a single sheet of paper with an official stamp. I tried to negotiate, to explain, to beg. "Please," I heard myself saying, my voice breaking like a child's. "Just give me 60 more days. High season is almost here. Tourists will be back. I can catch up on everything I owe." But the representative just shook his head, said sorry, too late, and walked away, leaving me standing there with that piece of paper fluttering in the morning breeze. The restaurant felt different that day. The empty chairs seemed to mock me. Behind the bar, those thousands of photographs of smiling customers looked like ghosts from someone else's life. I found a receipt with an unpaid tab, 420 baht for my last regular, an old German guy named Hendrik who'd been coming for 11 years. He hadn't even said goodbye when he left. I spent that day calling everyone I could think of, old friends who'd promised they'd always be there, customers who'd said, "If you ever need anything," business contacts who talked about opportunity and partnership. Phone lines went dead. Numbers were disconnected. The few people who answered suddenly had emergencies that prevented them from talking. Nobody wanted to touch a sinking ship. By evening, I was sitting on the floor of my empty restaurant, clutching a warm bottle of Chang beer I'd found in the back of the cooler. The electricity had been cut off 3 weeks earlier, so my neon sign, that beautiful sunset pearl sign that had glowed for 18 years, was dark and lifeless. This can't be it, I whispered to the empty room, my voice echoing off walls that had heard thousands of stories, endless laughter, so much life. Not after 18 years, not like this. But it was. The kingdom I'd built from nothing was about to become nothing again. And I was about to discover what it really means to lose everything in paradise. What I'm about to tell you now is the hardest part to share, but it's also the most important. Because this is where the romantic fantasy of the expat dream gets completely stripped away, revealing the brutal reality of what happens when you fall through the cracks in paradise. After the eviction, I had nowhere to go. No savings, no friends willing to help, no family to call back home. I'd burned those bridges years ago with my stubborn insistence that I was living the dream while they rotted in their pathetic little lives. The beaches of Koh Samui, which had once represented freedom and infinite possibility, became my bedroom. I found a spot near a cluster of palm trees, far enough from the main tourist areas to avoid police attention, but close enough to the 7-Eleven to use their bathroom when staff weren't watching. The first night sleeping rough, I told myself it was temporary, just a few days until I figured something out. I had a tarp I'd salvaged from the restaurant's storage and a thin blanket that smelled like stale beer and broken dreams. Then the monsoon season arrived. If you've never experienced a Thai monsoon, you can't imagine the sheer violence of it. The rain doesn't fall, it attacks. It turns the air into a wall of water that soaks through everything within seconds. My tarp became useless almost immediately, and I found myself huddled against a palm tree, shivering in the tropical heat as water poured down on my face and back. The rain would last for hours, sometimes all night, and there was absolutely nowhere to hide. The beach that had once been my kingdom became a muddy, flooded nightmare when I fought every moment of dry comfort. But the physical discomfort was nothing compared to the hunger. When you're homeless in a tourist town, you become invisible to the very people who once paid your bills. I learned to time my movements around the street food vendors, waiting until they closed to check their garbage bins for anything edible. I remember one particularly low moment, one that still makes me want to vomit when I think about it. I found a half-eaten pad thai in a styrofoam container behind a beachfront restaurant. The noodles were cold and soggy, mixed with cigarette ash from someone's discarded cigarette. But I ate every single bite because I hadn't had a proper meal for 4 days. The shame was absolutely overwhelming. Here I was, a man who'd once employed 16 people, who'd hosted wedding parties for 200 guests, who'd been featured in travel magazines as a must-visit destination, and I was literally eating garbage mixed with cigarette ash to survive. But there were moments of unexpected kindness that kept me human. The street vendor named Nong, who sold fresh fruit to tourists, started giving me a free mango every few days. She never said much, never made it into a big thing, just smiled and handed me the fruit like it was the most natural gesture in the world. One evening, after she'd given me a particularly sweet mango, I completely broke down. I sat on the sand, still wearing my faded Sunset Pearl t-shirt, that cruel reminder of who I used to be, and I sobbed like a child. The waves crashed nearby, and the same waves that had once been the soundtrack to my success, now witnessing my complete and total destruction. The worst part wasn't the hunger. It wasn't the rain. It wasn't even the shame. The worst part was the realization that I'd become a cautionary tale, a whispered warning among the expat community. Don't end up like Tobey. I'd see other restaurant owners sometimes, People who'd known me during my glory days, they'd spot me from across the street and quickly look away, afraid that whatever curse had destroyed me might be contagious. I'd become a ghost haunting the edges of the paradise I'd once ruled. During those months on the beach, I had way too much time to think. I replayed every decision, every mistake, and every single moment where I could have chosen differently. The lone, trusting Prawit without contracts, ignoring my visa status. Each choice had seemed reasonable, even smart at the time. But together, they'd created a perfect storm of destruction that swept away everything I'd built. I started writing then, using scraps of paper and broken pens I'd find discarded by tourists. Writing became my lifeline, my way of processing what had happened and maybe, just maybe, warning others not to make the same catastrophic mistakes. I could go back in time into that humid Bangkok airport in 1988 if I could grab that 23-year-old version of myself by the shoulders and shake some sense into him. Here's exactly what I'd say. Listen to me, Tobey. Listen like your life depends on it, because it damn does. You're about to step off that ferry into Koh Samui with 1,700 pounds in your backpack and a head full of dreams that everyone else calls stupid. You think you're special, different, that the rules applying to other people don't apply to you because you're clever and determined. You're wrong. And that arrogance is going to cost you absolutely everything. First, and this is crucial, save money like your life literally depends on it, because it does. I know what you're thinking. I'm young, I'm in paradise, I should enjoy life. That mindset will destroy you. Every single successful expat who survived long term had one thing in common. They saved aggressively during the good times to survive the inevitable bad times. Set aside 40% of everything you make. Not 20%, not 30%, 40%. Put it in a UK bank account that you can't easily access from Thailand. Call it your disaster fund, your deportation fund, your life preserver. Because there will come a day, I promise you this, when you desperately need it. And if it's not there, you'll end up sleeping on beaches and eating cigarette ash-covered garbage. Learn Thai properly, not just enough to order food and charm bar girls. Really learn it. Take formal classes, hire a private tutor, immerse yourself completely. Your inability to truly communicate and understand Thai will cost you over 1 million baht in bad deals, misunderstandings, and people taking advantage of your ignorance. When Prawit approaches you with his smooth talk and beautiful promises, run. Run like your life depends on it. Never, ever enter into business partnerships based on handshakes and good feelings. Contracts reviewed by real lawyers, proper background checks, formal agreements. These aren't signs of distrust, they're signs of intelligence. Understand visa laws completely, not just the basics. Every detail, every requirement, every potential pitfall. Hire an immigration lawyer to explain everything to you in writing. Keep multiple copies. Your visa status is your lifeline in Thailand. And letting it lapse is like cutting your own throat slowly. But here's the most important thing. The thing that hurts the most to admit. Don't use the restaurant's noise to drown your own loneliness. I spent 18 years surrounded by hundreds of people every single day, but never really connecting with anyone. I had customers, employees, drinking buddies, but no real friends, no family, no one who cared about Tobey the person rather than Tobey the restaurant owner who bought rounds of drinks. That isolation made every bad decision worse because I had no one to talk to honestly, no one to give me perspective, no one to tell me when I was making mistakes. Build real relationships. Stay connected to your family back home, even when they don't understand your choices. Maintain friendships that aren't based on business or convenience. Understand this. Paradise isn't a place. It's a trap if you don't know who you really are. Thailand will seduce you with its beauty, its freedom, its apparent simplicity. But underneath that gorgeous surface is a complex society with rules and hierarchies and expectations that you'll never fully understand as an outsider. Respect that complexity. Don't assume that because you're successful in one area, you understand everything. And finally, and this is critical, have an exit strategy. Always. Know exactly how much money you need to leave with dignity, and know when it's time to go. Pride will tell you to stay and fight, to prove everyone wrong, to rebuild from nothing like you did before. But sometimes the smartest thing you can do is admit defeat and start over somewhere else while you still have the resources to do it. I ignored every single one of these lessons and it cost me everything. I'm writing this from a rock bottom, from complete destruction, hoping that maybe someone else will be smarter than I was. Don't be me, Tobey. Be better than me. I'm typing this at 2:47 a.m. from a beach I don't own anymore, using a borrowed phone with a shattered screen that keeps cutting my fingers every time I swipe. The sounds of waves crashing nearly used to be the soundtrack to my success. Now it's just a rhythm of my desperation. My hands are shaking as I write this, partly from hunger. I haven't eaten properly in 3 days. Partly from the cheap whiskey that helps me sleep when the nightmares get too bad. But mostly from the urgent, desperate need to get this story out before it's too late. I can feel my strength fading, my hope diminishing with each day, my will to keep fighting getting weaker. The monsoon season is coming again in a few months, and I honestly don't know if I can survive another one. Last year nearly killed me, and I'm weaker now, more broken, less able to fight for each day of survival. But here's the thing. If even one person reads this and learns from my catastrophic mistakes, if even one dreamer thinks twice before making the same decision that destroyed me, then maybe my 18 years of building something beautiful wasn't completely meaningless. Maybe it will have served some purpose beyond my own ego and ambition. Please, I'm begging you, share this story. Tell people about Tobey who thought he was different, who thought the rules didn't apply to him, who confused luck with wisdom and pride with intelligence. Tell them about the restaurant owner who became a cautionary tale, who traded a kingdom for a handful of terrible decisions. Don't let my story end in silence on the beach of Koh Samui. Let it be a warning, a lesson, a reminder that paradise can become hell faster than you can possibly imagine if you're not prepared for the fall. I don't know how much time I have left. I don't know if I'll make it through another monsoon season. But even if one person listens to this warning, maybe it wasn't all for nothing. If you're reading this and you're thinking about starting a business in Thailand or any foreign country, please learn from my destruction. Save money, get proper contracts, understand the legal system, maintain connections back home, have an exit strategy. Don't be me. I was the king of my little corner of paradise and now I'm nothing. Don't let that be your story too. Tobey Thompson, former owner of the Sunset Pearl, Koh Samui, currently nowhere. P.S. I'm sending this now because I might not have the courage tomorrow. And tomorrow might be too late anyway.